And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, I've got to prepare all of you to get very angry because what we're about to share with you will rightly make your blood boil. As most of you know, ports, by the way, along the East Coast were shut down this week because of a union leader's demands. We have the update on that, and including a reported 75% pay raise for dock workers. I think now the employers are up to 62%. Anyway, a lot of them make six figures. Kamala Harris supported this shutdown, which cost you, the American people, is costing us billions of dollars a day. They only kicked the can down the road. The strike is temporarily on hiatus, but this story can get much, much worse. As all of you know, much of Appalachia, the Gulf Coast of Florida, from the Gulf Coast of Florida, reeling from Hurricane Helene. This was the deadliest hurricane since Katrina. These regions desperately need supplies coming through those ports, which are now backed up. Last weekend, Joe was sitting without a care in the world on the beach in his little beach chair. Kamala Harris out hobnobbing with her rich Hollywood friends, both for the most part MIA in states that have been completely devastated. But here's the real problem. In North Carolina, in Georgia, in Tennessee, South Carolina, and in the state of Florida, they need immediate help, especially North Carolina and Georgia, from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or what we call FEMA. It has now been a full week, and this is what we learned today. FEMA is out of money, and wait till you hear the reason why. Take a look.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Now, you got to remember, I interviewed Governor Kemp of Georgia. I interviewed Governor DeSantis, my state of Florida. And they had both pre-positioned utility trucks, supplies. Everybody knew that a massive Category 4 hurricane was on the way. Joe and Kamala, they prepared for absolutely nothing. At the very least, they should have at least understood that they were going to run out of monies allocated for this storm. And where did all the money go? This is where your blood's really going to get hot. Until last week, it was a relatively calm hurricane system. And here's where this story gets infuriating and beyond disgraceful. The Biden-Harris administration, we now have learned, raided FEMA's piggy bank for other endeavors. They took over $1 billion of FEMA funds supposed to be available for national emergencies to help you, the American people, if, God forbid, there's an emergency as bad as this one. And they spent all of that money on their 11.5 million unvetted illegal immigrants from over 180 other countries, by the way, including countries with terror ties and our top geopolitical foes. And they use that money for free food, housing, health care, education, sex change surgeries, debit cards, four-star hotels for illegal immigrants, on top of the billions and billions they'd already spent. Now, there just aren't enough funds, what, for the people in North Carolina, South Carolina, our friends in Tennessee, our friends in Georgia, our friends here in the state of Florida. In the week since Helene, only $4 million has been distributed to Americans devastated by the storm. Person after person calling into my radio show saying they haven't seen a single emergency worker, FEMA representative on the ground. Hundreds of Americans we know lost their lives. Hundreds are now unaccounted for and missing. People don't have homes. They don't have food. They don't have water. They don't have housing. Up until Donald Trump contacted Elon Musk, they didn't have any communications. They've been completely abandoned by your border czar, who prioritized her unvetted illegal immigrants over the American people and hasn't lifted a finger in over a week. And now we find out a week later they don't have any money. The little money that they have given out is described as a one-time grant that gives storm victims a lousy, what, $750? Can they open their eyes? Are they not aware of the devastation? We don't even know how many other people are in deep trouble because they can't get to them and they haven't put the resources forward to get to them. You have illegal immigrants getting everything, including free sex change operations, courtesy of you, the taxpayer, while American citizens in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina lost everything, and they get nothing but the middle finger from Joe Biden and border czar Kamala Harris. Let me be clear. This is rightly Kamala's Katrina on steroids and human growth hormone. Meanwhile, the Biden-Harris administration, they've allocated close to $200 billion to Ukraine, $8 billion more just last week. How about we withhold that payment and give it to the people of North Carolina, Georgia that are devastated? This is an administration that has given nearly $3 billion to the Taliban, and they can't help our own citizens? The Taliban, the ones that have billions of dollars on our military equipment, and still there are Americans caught behind enemy lines. And so many of our allies, well, they were taken out of their homes because they left a list of their names on it, never to be seen or heard from again. $230 million to build a floating pier on a beach in Gaza. That's what Harris and Biden did for them, you know, to rush food supplies to the Palestinians and Hamas. That pier was only operational for 20 days. Joe and Kamala sent another $211 million in humanitarian assistance that was sent to Haiti this year, $45 million to help tackle gang violence. The administration gives over $1 billion every year. Let's go through some of the countries. The list is longer. Ethiopia, Egypt, Yemen, Jordan, Somalia, Southern Sudan, and many other countries across the world. But, you know, Katrina Kamala stays MIA, throws crumbs to the people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, especially in North Georgia, northern North Carolina. Oh, why? Is that because it's Republican areas? What a repulsive disgrace. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, he's a pretty mild-mannered guy, baffled, stunned by the White House that refused to issue an emergency declaration offer that he asked for 90 counties in Georgia that were devastated by this hurricane. He needed that declaration for 90 counties. They only gave him 11. He had to get back on the phone with the White House and begging Biden's chief of staff, Joe was probably taking a nap, to take more action. And he only got 30 more of the 90 counties that he needed covered. Again, the middle finger to Georgia, North Carolina, and everyone in between. Wow, pretty unbelievable. Take a look.
When the first emergency declarations came down, there was only 11 counties in that. A lot of people were outraged, including me, because there was such devastation in you know, up to 90 counties. So we called the White House. We spoke to the president's chief of staff, the FEMA administrator, and said, look, you're sending the signal that you're not paying attention to some of these rural communities.
I mean, just abandoning Georgia, North Carolina, and every state in between. Everybody knew this hurricane was coming. Governor Kemp did his job, pre-positioned utility trucks, supplies available for the people of Georgia. Governor DeSantis did the same thing. Everyone knew it would be a major Cat 3-4 storm. Where was the federal government? And why didn't we find out till today that FEMA ran out of money? And why didn't Biden and Harris pre-position a thing? And why did they, you know, reallocate these funds to help the 11.5 illegals that shouldn't be in the country anyway? Why did they raid FEMA funds for illegals? Why isn't FEMA on the ground in these areas in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida now? And I'll say this, God bless the Reverend Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, and Samaritan's Purse. Thank God. I donated to them this week myself. If you want to go to SamaritansPurse.org, they need your help. And thank God for Donald Trump. He actually got on the ground long before Kamala and Joe, and then saw the devastation, got on the phone with his friend Elon Musk, and Elon Musk, you know, sent in Starlink to establish communications where there was none at all whatsoever. There would be zero help. People would be dying without communications. And according to numerous reports on the ground, the administration has been so painfully slow, they're not even there now. And leaving Americans to suffer and fend for themselves in communities now without roads, bridges, power, food, clean water. You can't make it up. It's so bad. Take a look.
We've seen our friends and neighbors lose their homes. We've seen classrooms of children who have no longer have their homes. We are hunting for teachers. We have 23 teachers out of our list that we haven't been able to find. I've been a teacher in Black Mountain for 25 years. I've been a resident there for 48. And we've never experienced anything like this.
Is there anything you'd love to make sure that they know, both President Biden and Kamala Harris, as they head to that region today?
We need so much help. We don't want to be forgotten. Our communities all hold hands with each other. Black Mountain and Swannanoa's children go to school together. We're not separate.
A week late and billions of dollars short. This is Kamala Harris, border czar. This is her Katrina. In many areas across the Southeast, communications have been totally down. No cell service, no internet, no phones. Last year, let's follow the bouncing ball, shall we? The same Biden-Harris administration rescinded a Starlink contract, that's Elon Musk's company, even when Elon was the low bidder. By the way, the same Elon that's going to go save the astronauts that are lost in space, thanks to Kamala leading up that agency. And they would have been able to connect nearly 700,000 homes to the internet in these exact rural areas like Appalachia. They clearly revoked the deal with Elon Musk for political reasons. So now Musk gets a call from Trump, is working, and to his credit, he's been able to rush Starlink terminals to the region and provide internet service for free. I talked to Billy Graham's, Franklin Graham's guy today, Samaritan's Purse today, and they said they need generators to run Starlink. I said, well, can I raise more money? Can I give you more money? Because the communications, we don't even know if people are, without food and water and about to die after 6 days of them doing nothing. Meanwhile, Joe Biden was mentally checked out for months. His VP, Kamala Harris, this is her Katrina, routinely skipping important hurricane preparedness meetings. She wasn't there. And 2 years ago, she said that disaster relief aid should be provided on the basis of race and equity. We're going to play politics and insert DEI into disaster relief? You can't make it up. Take a look.
It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. And so women. Absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities.
How about in a situation like this, how about we all band together, you help out any and every American based on their need, and you do it as soon as possible, and don't sit on your ass for a week like they have? How about you don't steal money for illegal immigrants for their sex change operations, free housing, health care, food, education, et cetera, and amnesty, and you leave the money where it belongs, in a lockbox for emergencies when they happen, for FEMA? Do the people of Appalachia just not look the right way? Maybe you don't like how they vote historically, and they don't deserve federal aid. They're Americans. They are desperately in need and have been for a week, and you have abandoned them. In the past 4 years, Kamala has passionately called for billions of dollars, to repay student debt, provide sex change operations, not only for illegals, but also convicts in jail, vowed to eliminate the filibuster, to spend $93 trillion on the Green New Deal, a cradle-to-grave society. By the way, any of you out there want to trust your government? When it comes to hurricane victims, the passion is gone. No desperate pleas for funding. She didn't even bother to step away from her lavish Hollywood fundraisers over the weekend. Biden wouldn't come back from the beach. Too lazy to get his ass out of that beach chair and do his job. It took Kamala and Joe a week to visit the Southeast. Remember 2005, George W. Bush mocked, ridiculed, called racist for his hurricane response to Hurricane Katrina? The criticism was on day 2, the second day after it occurred. According to the New York Times, he was blasted for not returning to Washington from his Texas vacation until Wednesday afternoon, 2 days after the Monday hurricane. Well, and he flew over Katrina, didn't want to land and be a distraction. Well, this is Kamala's Katrina. She and Biden are failing the people of the Southeast. She prioritized the illegal immigrants over you, the American people. She talks a big game about equity, but doesn't seem to give a damn when people are truly in need. And today, former President Trump said that this has been the worst hurricane response in the history of our country. Take a look.
Now we have a horrific disaster in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Virginia. That's how big this hurricane was. And the Harris-Biden administration says they don't have any money. They've spent it all on, they spent all of their money. They have almost no money because they spent it all on illegal migrants. This is the worst response in the history of hurricanes.
The president's right. And sadly, tonight as we speak, Americans from North Carolina all the way down to Florida in the Southeast continue to suffer.